appreciation for everybody getting together on a Monday evening. My name is Jill Jolliker. I am the Assistant County Administrator for Douglas County. I'm one of the co-conveners of the City and County Strategic Plan to End Homelessness called A Place for Everyone. And this evening's presentation is a part of that strategic plan to end homelessness. Our agenda for this evening is I'm welcoming you, and we're going to talk about what are the plans for this coming winter, and which is what's top of mind for my colleague and I, Misty Bosch Hastings, that you'll hear from here in just a couple minutes. We're going to give you a plan overview and in a short presentation, and as a follow-up to today's presentation, we will be posting the full version of this plan on our website, which is a place for everyone. And I believe I have that at the end of this slide deck. And then we'll talk to you all about our next steps, which is going to be a follow-up meeting, which will happen next month. So just to frame up where our heads are at from a city county perspective, well, first of all, this plan that you all will see is one of the goals of the strategic plan to end chronic homelessness in Douglas County. A Place for Everyone was to develop an an extreme weather emergency sheltering plan for Douglas County. So that was done in partnership with the organizations that you'll see later in my slides, but chiefly with our emergency management department, our colleagues with the City of Lawrence, our first responders with Douglas County Fire and Medical, the United Way, Bert Nash. I'm probably leaving some folks out, but it was a collaborative effort that was led underneath the umbrella of our emergency management department at Douglas County. So we treated this plan just like we do other emergency response plans for the community. And when we think of extreme weather, we're talking about, coincidentally, days like today. But as we look ahead to the winter time and we think about what last winter looked like, preparing for extreme winter weather and conditions that could impact our housed community and our unhoused community. The subject matter of this conversation and the presentation that motivated us today is related to our unhoused community, but I would encourage folks to think about how extreme weather impacts our housed community as well. But you can see here, this is data from our most recent point in time count. You may have seen this covered in some of the local media, but this is information that the county and the city, while it's not the best count, it is a count of who folks are on the date in January that this count is taken. So it gives us a sense of how many folks are how homeless and sheltered and how many folks are out unsheltered. So this just gives us a sense of where we're at.
Jessica's got her hand up, and it might be because we're not seeing the presentation.
Oh, shoot. Oh, you're probably right. Good Lord. Sorry, y'all. I thought I did the share screen. Give me just a second. All right, let's try this again, Jill. Clearly, my brain has completely cooked itself on this Monday night. Okay. Let's try this again.
Make sure that that's what Jessica wanted to say.
Oh, yeah. Just a minute. I need to let Jessica talk. Let me let her talk. She should be able to.
I'm not able to unmute her.
Yeah. Jessica, are you able to use the chat?
Okay, I can unmute now. No, I can't. So I don't think anybody else can either. I don't know if you were hoping for folks to ask questions in the comments, but
yeah.
Just I wasn't seeing the presentation. That was really why I raised my hand. But
no, I appreciate it.
Couldn't unmute myself or chat, so I was feeling very vulnerable.
Yeah, no, you're good. I'll try to fix the chat here in a minute. But I'm going to go to share screen and let me know if you don't see it. Give me just a second. Can
We see
folks
it.
see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so, thanks, Jessica. All right, so back on track. I'm going to back up real quick. So here's the data that we talked about, in that giving folks a snapshot of why we want to be prepared for winter. This gives you a sense from that point in time count, so you can see what those total numbers in the point in time count, pit count, look like for this past January. You can see that total count was 414. But you can see up here in this top box what that category, how that breaks down. 142 were unsheltered, and then 135 were in emergency shelters, and then there were 137 in transitional shelters. So you can see how that compares to 2023. The pit count is not a perfect count, but it's something that we can use to start planning. This is where I'm going to hand it off to Misty to talk about what our plans are to date related to winter shelters. And Misty, have at it.
Thank you. So as we approach the colder months, it's critical that we have a robust plan in place for winter emergency shelter and overflow. The Lawrence Community Shelter will continue to serve as our primary shelter, offering up to 140 beds in winter emergency shelter, and providing essential services to those in need. However, with the increased demand during the winter, we have partnered with several faith-based organizations to offer additional overflow shelter options. I'm pleased to recognize the University Community of Christ and the First United Methodist Church. Again, they helped out last year, and they're both offering a capacity of up to 25 beds each. We also have the Jesus Community Church of Nazarene. They have graciously committed to providing 8 to 10 beds. We're not quite sure, depending. They have a small place organization, and we're just going to see what we can get in there when we need a place for individuals that have pets. This is an important option as it ensures that pet owners are not forced to choose between their safety and the care of their animals. Lawrence First Church of Nazarene is also on board, though we're still trying to determine final capacity and what that's going to look like. My goal is to have around 100 to 125 beds available for overflow, ensuring that we can accommodate everyone in need. So we are still looking for a couple of organizations that would be willing to help out and do that. And while securing space is vital, we also face a dire need for volunteers. So if your organization cannot offer physical space, please know that your time and support as a volunteer are just as crucial. Together with the combined efforts of our entire community, we hope that everyone has a safe place to stay during these winter months.
Thanks, Misty. I'm going to try to mess with the chat. I promise I will, but I'm going to try to move through this presentation pretty quickly, and then I'll turn the share screen off and I'll play with the chat. Having trouble doing it on one screen. So purpose of the extreme weather emergency shelters. You see it here, but it's the extreme cold, heat, and storm conditions endanger the lives of housed and unhoused people in our community every year. The primary purpose of the Douglas County Extreme Weather Emergency Shelter Plan is to save lives and equip community agencies and organizations with a resource to support the expansion of extreme weather emergency sheltering needs in our family. The extreme winter emergency sites are intended to provide a safe environment and the necessities of life that will give the individuals experiencing homelessness the comfort we all deserve. So who's served? These shelters are open to men, women, and any gender nonconforming individual. The shelters are intended for those that are experiencing homelessness or may not be able to meet necessary warming or cooling needs due to financial constraints or their precarious housing conditions in the Lawrence and Douglas County community. Families will be accommodated on a case-by-case basis by contacting the Douglas County Homelessness Response Team. The numbers on here, we will make sure that that's in our follow-up materials as well, but That is a Douglas County, it's City of Lawrence and Douglas County response team. Folks may be following that we are working to pursue the securing of a family shelter in this community, but it's, if I'm being honest with this group, it's a 2-year game, but we are close to at least securing a site. And in the meantime, if you do encounter families that are experiencing homelessness in those extreme conditions, but honestly, right now, we want to try to connect families to the care that they need, and we have a solid process for that for families. So whether it's extreme weather or today, use this phone number and this process. We say here that guests from other cities and states must be redirected to their city of origin. We've got diversion training as one of the things that can be provided, made available through our partners with the Continuum of Care. And under Misty's leadership, we have been working to develop a policy that helps our community providers operationalize how we can get guests and folks from we can give them a respite stay and then move them on to their community where they have connections to a network of support. How do we activate the winter shelter? We activate it when there's inclement weather is anticipated or starts occurring. Inclement weather is defined as severe weather conditions which are determined to threaten the safety of lives or property. Our emergency management department monitors those conditions in cooperation with the National Weather Service, and they issue guidance via the Everbridge emergency notification system. Many of you may already be on that. I know I receive those in my personal life and in my professional, and we're going to give you the tools to sign up for those. And that's largely through the Northeast Kansas Regional Notification System Emergency Alert Program, and we'll provide you with some links to that later in this presentation. A little bit more information about how to sign up for that. Again, we'll have that in our follow-up materials, but this is all on and you can see the dgcoks.gov link under our emergency management department. You're going to find a lot of resources from my colleagues with emergency management. So the extreme weather emergency shelter plan. This plan is crafted based on the example that the City of Lawrence has utilized in this past winter. Misty is really our subject matter expert here because she's operationalized this plan with a team of folks, some of which are on this call. We suggest the capacity for any organization that decides to provide a winter shelter that they look at up to 25 folks at a single site. Eligibility is adults 18 years of age that can care for themselves. And the shelter model that we strive for partners to operationalize is what's known as a harm prevention model. So that means that guests may be able to access the shelter under the influence of alcohol and drugs. That does not mean that our expectation is that all organizations that sign up to be partners will do that, but it is what is encouraged. And so accessing the determinations in those cases, again, that could be determined on a site-by-site, partner-by-partner basis. We want to have that conversation with you all. And if folks are interested in understanding what is that harm prevention model and what does harm reduction look like, we've got training to support you with that. But we also want to meet our community partners where they're at and where they're comfortable. The resources that we have to support partners, these are all the partners that we've had a part of this, the planning of this work. You see Douglas County Emergency Management. You see the United Way of Kaw Valley, the Red Cross. I'm going to show you a little bit more about United Way, but they are a huge player and partner to us in volunteer recruitment, supply donations, and resource referral. The Red Cross of Greater Kansas City can provide support for shelter management training and certification, supplies, and they can help with volunteers and volunteer training. They have a limited number of volunteers, and depending on what kind of emergency extreme weather we have, the determination is sometimes made on the part of the Red Cross of what kind of shelter they may be able to provide. Our Burt Nash Community Mental Health Center are a key partner in mental health first aid, de-escalation, and violence prevention training. And then the housing resources that can be provided through that Douglas County Homelessness Response Team is another one. Kansas State Homeless Coalition, I already mentioned them, related to harm reduction training. They're our Balance of State Continuum of Care. They partner with us through to access funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Here's a nice snapshot of what the dashboard looks like that the Cobb Valley United Way the United Way of Cobb Valley will set up to support recruiting volunteers. They did this last year. It was incredible. They are positioned to do that again. So this is just a snapshot of what that looks like. And we have Jessica Bearcloth on here just to, make sure she's monitoring this conversation and is here to partner with us. This is a snapshot if you want to just go ahead and capture that QR code here. But this is an easy way to get signed up for those alerts through our emergency management department. Yeah. So volunteer team, if you want to volunteer to get training or support any of the work that our emergency management department does in extreme weather circumstances, in any sort of an emergency that they're activated, they've got volunteer teams that cover all these areas here: accountability, auxiliary communications teams, amateur radio, community emergency response teams, CERT volunteers, huge opportunity. Emergency Operations Center, our EOC support, peer supports, and then Skywarn Storm Spotters. Again, there's opportunities to access those volunteer opportunities on our website. And that's just a great resource for anyone that's interested in volunteering to be prepared for any sort of an emergency, to be a community volunteer responder. And then here's another QR code for some of the, you can access some of the classes and the presentations and plan reviews that they do. They love to outreach with community partners. And again, I can't recommend working with them enough. Then they'll customize their presentations for you. Okay. I'm going to pause here on this screen and I'm going to change my presentation mode. It's going to look a little funky for a minute, and I'm going to mess with the chat. But Misty, you can see here that we've got a planned follow-up meeting that is on September 12th, 1 to 2:30 at the Douglas County Fairgrounds, the Florida Meeting Hall. We're going to take a deeper dive into the plan. We're going to and answer any questions, maybe, and hopefully hear from some of our specialty partners that provide can provide that training. All right, I'm going to stop sharing real quick. Actually, I'm going to put my email and Misty's email in the chat, and then I'm going to try to fix the chat to give a couple minutes for Q&A. And I apologize that I clearly did not set this up very well. The county is shifting over to utilizing Teams for most of the presentations that we do. So doing a Teams webinar is a little tricky for me, obviously. I'm going to drop those emails there, and then let me mess with the chat with my presentation real quick and see if I can make it open to folks. Okay. I would love it if somebody would just drop something in the chat just to test it. Did folks even see the chat that I put together? Oh, sweet. Thank you, Peter. All right, with that, we've got 11 minutes. Does anybody have any questions? And what I do want to say also that I didn't cover, I know I rushed through some of those slides, is you might be like, this plan, it's intended to, and we have a full-blown plan. We want this plan to be something that lives within our emergency management department, so that we have something that's we've all agreed upon when we need to respond. Again, for our unhoused community, that's specific to their needs. But it also expands expands our ability to respond to the needs of all of our community members. And I do see the information. I'm going to drop in the chat that follow-up meeting. I see that note in the chat. At this time, I wish I could say that we had a magical bucket of money that we could use to support community partners that want to do this. But if you recall from some of my earlier slides, I think we do have a good amount of resources through our partners to either get donations or some of the supplies that we can get provided, like cots, water, snacks, blankets, pillows, things like that. We have a great partnership, the partnership that we have with the American Red Cross, and then again soliciting donations from our partners with through our partnership with the United Way. But if there is a significant barrier that you are something that you're wondering about, that's where I would encourage you to either come to the meeting or shoot an email to Misty and I, and we're happy to just try to problem solve with you. I'm looking at this question in the chat. Go ahead, Misty.
Peter says, and asking for additional community shelters. Do these groups simply provide the space, or do they need to also provide staffing to supervise the shelter during the emergency? We are asking for the space. The city is committing to have one person at each site while it's open as well. And then we will work with United Way, like we did last year, to get the support of volunteers. But we also, in each of our churches, there was a great support from the congregation as well.
Yeah, I'll have handouts that I'll send out to everybody that registered. I'll send you a slide deck. Yeah, we at this time, we wanted to do this presentation to allow folks to think about, doing this. I think if one of your challenges is finding volunteers for our shelter managers, so to speak, especially for our partners outside of the city of Lawrence, that's where we want to come alongside and provide training. And our timing is good right now. We have time to do that because obviously extreme winter weather could happen as soon as Halloween or sooner. It's Kansas, but we've got time to prepare you all, and we want to come alongside folks to help you with that.
Lisa asked if there was any locations for people in Baldwin, and there is not yet. And we are hoping that there is something available, not just for adult single individuals, but concerned about individuals that may not have electricity as well.
Beth, first of all, Beth, love seeing your name in the chat. We could, congregations, I don't know that quite. There you go. I see Linda dropping another one in, but I think that might be the only one last winter. Yeah, Misty, University Community Church?
No, FUMC, First United Methodist Church, was a partner as well last. I'm not seeing the question.
Yeah, First United Methodist was too. My bad.
So I think John Crable's on here. I'm not sure how many volunteers he had from his congregation, but I think we had approximately 2 to 3 individuals at all times.
Yeah, I was going to say, whether you have staff or volunteers, there should be a consistently staffed, trained person that can help. And then you sort of supplement that person. It doesn't always have to be the same person, obviously, especially if we're doing 24 hours. It probably shouldn't be one person for your site. But the recommendation is really 2 to 3 to potentially 4. Sometimes it's dependent on the number of folks you house. So if we look at that 25 as a max for the congregations, you're probably wanting to at least have what we would classify as like a leader, a team leader, and then 3 volunteers is like best. If you can't get 3, 2 will work, if that makes sense. That would be the recommendation United Way of Kaw Valley has.
I would also like to add that we last year we closed during the day, and because we do have facilities in the city that individuals can go to during the day, so we were running operations like from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. I believe, some type of time, that type of time frame. And that would be the same for this year. If people wanted to just do an overnight, there are places for people to go during the day.
And that might be something that for our folks outside the city of Lawrence, you know, if it's helpful to have for me or my colleagues with emergency management help facilitate a conversation with some of our other community partners, you know, whether that's, you know, I know that there's resource centers or recreation centers, you know, depending on the circumstances, coming up with a place for folks to be during the day. That may be something that we need to facilitate a conversation. So that's something that I know I'm happy to do if you perceive that as being a challenge or a barrier. Really appreciate University Community Church of Christ being available for trainings. We're going to take you up on that offer. I think you all offer a really important perspective, along with our friends at First United Methodist, on, you know, how things operated in the past year. And also, I think you all can provide some good testimony to what a great, I mean, I just think how the city of Lawrence under Misty's team can provide a great response, be responsive to the often evolving needs. I remember that there was a time that we were, you know, trying to figure out, do we need to stand up another shelter over a weekend at the fairgrounds? We ended up not needing to, but those are the kind of things that we want to be prepared to flex on. And I'll just say that, you know, I know that we have folks that are, in addition to Misty, we've got folks that are on our homelessness response team that we talked about that are peers. Those are individuals with lived experience of homelessness. So when there are individuals that can be challenging to engage, especially during these extreme weather conditions, we've really got a great team of folks that are willing to help. And I think I'd just ask that you all give us some grace as we work through this process, but we're trying to learn as we go and be proactive as we plan ahead for the next winter. So 2 minutes. I'm gonna look at the chat for another minute. I'll just leave the chat open. We will provide. I'll provide a copy of this PowerPoint slide. I'll provide a link to the recording, and then once I know that it's updated, I will make sure I send out the link to the full plan on our Place for Everyone website. Misty, do you have an answer to Mackenzie's questions? I think that's what we're talking about. The ones that were on the earlier slide, Mackenzie. University Community Church of Christ, in addition to Lawrence Community Shelter, University Community Church of Christ, and I'll just drop all these in the chat. First United Methodist, Jesus Community Church of Nazarene, and Lawrence First Church. Let me copy. Does that answer your question, Mackenzie? Misty, do you see that second question? Amtrak or community building?
Yeah, no, that is not in the plans for overnight. You know, we've been planning far enough ahead and getting LCS, you know, fully funded so they can provide that 140 bed space for this, and then, this overflow is intentional and supported by the city so that we do not have to do that. And
Yeah, and that's what I'll say, like, that's the whole point of having this conversation, that we don't have to, it's great to have those resources, but it also disrupts the lives of other folks that have uses for that building as well. So we're trying to avoid using those, but again, like what we can stand up a shelter real quick if need be, depending on the circumstances. Okay, I'm super duper grateful to everybody that signed up for this webinar. If I would encourage folks to attend the follow-up meeting, email Misty or I, look for follow-ups like I committed to, and if we need to have a one-on-one conversation, that's what we're here for. And I'll let you all have a nice evening.
thanks, Jill.
Yeah, thanks.